With the Christmas season just beginning, you'd probably expect me to stay away from the movie theaters, right? Well, you might be a little bit wrong, because on December 2nd, the world was graced with the premiere of the new movie, Violent Night. This movie stars David Harbour as a cynical and alcoholic Santa Claus, thinking that this might be his last Christmas delivering presents to children around the world. Upon going to a family's house whose name I genuinely can't remember, Santa finds that the family has been taken hostage by criminals looking for the $300 million or some odd amount of money hiding in the basement. These people have no mercy. They're willing to kill children. They're willing to ransack a house, kill servants, burn down the house if they have to, all to get that money. What they don't quite realize is that Santa is upstairs not only delivering presents for the children, but ransacking the bar. He dumps out milk, eats cookies, finds whiskey, finds scotch, bourbon, a massage chair, what have you. It's funny, right? It's funny. Obviously, the night continues with murder, mayhem, candy canes, all that Christmas stuff. Aside from being sort of a fun take on a slasher, and we'll get to the slasher part in a second, I never really asked for a story or an origin of how Santa became willing to murder a bunch of people. That is, not until the movie brought it up in the first place. At some point, it's revealed that Santa Claus is this ancient Nordic warrior that used to fight his battles with a hammer that he called Skull Crusher. You'd think that that becomes the most interesting part of the movie, of how did a Nordic mercenary become jolly old Saint Nick? You'd be correct, as if that was the most interesting part of the movie. However, they never talk about it again. They bring it up once, maybe twice, and that's it. So we as a viewer are sitting there wondering, what's going on with Santa Claus? And we never get the answer. Honestly, David Harbour was great as Santa Claus. I loved seeing him in every scene, cracking jokes, swearing, bashing skulls in. It's really not what you'd expect of Santa Claus, but honestly, what you've kind of come to expect of David Harbour, right? I mean, have you seen Hellboy? But like I mentioned with the whole Nordic backstory, the storytelling was really the biggest failure of this movie. Not to say that it's a failure exactly, but really that it just comes up a little short. Everything with the family dynamic, the mother being the pompous rich one with the kids snoveling to her, really just almost feels inconsequential when you watch the rest of the movie and all you see is Santa murdering people. I mean, for a movie called Violent Night, the way that it was marketed, that's why you go see the movie. You go to see Santa bash some heads in. And you do get that. Seriously, you do. But every time it cuts away from Santa to the family, it just goes a little slow. Furthermore, when Trudy, the granddaughter, runs away to the attic to talk to Santa on her magical walkie-talkie, the same lack of storytelling prowess kicks in. It really just kills the pacing. I mean, you go from Santa Claus stabbing a man in the eye with a star and turning it on, or you have him throwing a man out the window on top of a pointy icicle on the ground, to him talking to a little girl about how he used to love Christmas. It's fine, and it provides characterization for a lot of people, but in terms of a fast-paced slasher that the movie was marketed as, kind of just doesn't work. I mean, how would you feel if you watched Halloween and then Michael Myers started talking about how much he loved Halloween and then his sister ruined it one day because she brought her boyfriend home? See what I mean? It just doesn't work. And if we want to talk about the villains, Mr. Scrooge and his gang of goons, they're all named after some sort of Christmas idea. You've got Candy Cane, Frosty, Krampus, who was my favorite actually because he was the only one that felt like he had a personality. And then the Kill Squad, who felt like they were only there simply to just add more bodies for Santa to cut through, which was cool in the barn, don't get me wrong, when Santa's taking his hammer and coming to town on them, if you know what I mean. But all in all, they really had no purpose. Even the leader of the Kill Squad just really didn't fit. I mean, sure, he was throwing away his career, and that was like a little bit of a characterization moment in and of itself, but I feel like the movie would have been just fine if they weren't there. And Santa found his reason to kill them in a different way, rather than, you know, the whole scene in the barn with them coming in the dark. Also, a little bit of a nitpick thing, like, if Santa bashes somebody's head in, their body camera doesn't turn off, so the guy at the computer can still see what's going on. Anyway, that's just a small little detail, doesn't matter. This is Santa up on the roof. So then let's talk about the villain. John Leguizamo's Mr. Scrooge. Obviously, he's not actually Mr. Scrooge, but if he has goons named Peppermint and Candy Cane, makes sense, right? Not that he was the main character or anything, but just saying that he wants to rob people on Christmas Eve because Christmas was ruined for him as a child just seems a little shoddy when you bring it up as a backstory and reasoning for a villain to do these horrible things to people, including Santa Claus, nonetheless. He makes it his personal mission to hunt down Santa, even though he doesn't believe that David Harbour is the real Santa Claus. And again, the backstory for the villain didn't need to be exceptional. I mean, it definitely wasn't, but at the same time, when that's his whole motivation, I feel like you need a little bit more foundation than that. Now, towards the end of the movie, Mr. Scrooge and Santa Claus obviously have one final battle out in the woods. And to tell you the truth, it was actually really cool. It was fairly well choreographed, and the cinematography for it was incredible. You have this red-orange glow of the fire against this blue and white background of the snow. It's sort of like a bright nighttime, if that makes any sense whatsoever, or at least that's the vibe I got from watching it. And that entire scene is really just visually stunning. The way that John Leguizamo was killed was incredible, by Santa snorting himself up the chimney. And obviously John Leguizamo, Mr. Scrooge, who is a human, is not meant for this Christmas magic and just becomes a torso at the top of the chimney because everything else gets stuck at the bottom. It's a weird mix of pixie dust, Christmas magic, and human blood coming out of the top of the chimney. It's really fantastic. However, shortly after that, Santa gets shot by the leader of the kill squad, who then gets shot by a member of the family, and the rest of the family uses the belief in Christmas magic to bring Santa back to life. It's a really touching moment, but to tell you the truth, aside from the blood and gore, and excessive language for that matter, this movie kind of felt like a high-budget Disney Christmas movie. You know, where Santa is the main character, but the kid Trudy is the main focus, and her believing in Christmas and finding the Christmas spirit, and Santa having this new lease on life after this meeting. It really felt a little bit too feel-good to me to be a true slasher. Obviously, it's very inspired by slashers, with the kill count and the way that people are murdered, the inventive ways, the hammer, the star through the eye, all that kind of stuff. Even the Home Alone booby traps with people falling on top of nails and screws. However, something just didn't sit right with me to call it a through and through slasher. And maybe that was my own expectations coming into play, thinking that I was going to get a little bit more of a story-heavy slasher, especially when I saw the Nordic storyline. And again, was not important whatsoever. That part really drove me up a wall, because once they showed it once, I was clamoring to see how it would bring it to a conclusion, and they never did. To me, A Violent Night really seems like somebody in the filmmaking team had a solid idea and just wanted to incorporate a lot of different aspects into this one film, where it couldn't really all fit in the 2-hour runtime. I feel like you could have tacked on another 20 minutes just to explain the Nordic storyline. Obviously, not a lot of people can sit through a movie that long anymore. But what suffered was the rest of the movie. I mean, even the small details like trying to explain Christmas magic to David Harbour just saying, well, I don't really know how it works. It just kind of suffered. One storytelling aspect I did like, though, was at the beginning when David Harbour's at the bar and he's talking about how Christmas has become capitalistic and commercialized. I like that. That's how I feel about Christmas. Christmas is a capitalistic holiday. It's not about Christmas anymore. It's about getting gifts and spending money and seeing who can spend the most money. Obviously, there are small cases amongst friends or family where that is not the case, and that is what Christmas should be. However, in today's social climate, it's not. This movie hit that right on the head. At the end, you know, it touched on the evolution of it, where David Harbour finds the true spirit of Christmas once again after 1100 years or so being Santa Claus. It's a cute story, but again, high budget Disney movie, right? This movie was fun. It's very entertaining. Not as bloody as I expected, but to see Santa Claus killing people left and right, it's really, really cool. And not in the Bill Goldberg way. What was that? Santa's Sleigh? Something like that. That's a fun movie too. You should check it out. However, this one's a little bit easier on the eyes, let's say, and brains for that matter. But my one big question was, where the hell was my man Rudolph? He was not leading the sleigh. How did Santa see? How did the reindeer see? How did they get through the clouds? I want an answer. Although I'll sleep just fine if I don't get one. Let me know what you think of A Violent Night, and if there are any movies you think I should try and cover, leave a comment and I'll consider it at the very least. Catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching.